Sometimes markets become very saturated. Now, a market being saturated could work in several different ways. It could work to the benefit of certain groups and it can work against certain groups. And it does often do that. And sometimes it produces a good result at the end. Now, you know how I do. I talk about things that I like. This is not necessarily something that I like, but I do believe this can lead to something good. Something good can come out of this, which is why I'm covering this. So I'm going to get to these two stories. Two stories I'm going to get to from bounding into comics, and I will explain my thinking on this, and you feel free to agree or disagree in the comments. Sony announced price changes for PS5, PS5 Pro, and PlayStation Portal remote player. And the PlayStation 5 is already super expensive. Like I don't think I could have brought myself to buy a PlayStation 5 or PS5 Pro even before the price hikes. It just I play games, but I play games casually. And sometimes I really get into certain games and play them a lot. And this is the reason why the Switch suits me so well, because I can play my Switch 2 casually, or I can hook it up to a monitor and get a little more in depth with my playing style. I can play a game that requires a little more. So I like that mix. PlayStation fans are getting hit with a price increase after Sony announced price changes for PS5, PS5 Pro, and PlayStation Portal. The first thing I'll say is, now people argue, oh, these businesses, they don't have to charge, which I agree. They could easily eat this, for however many quarters and see if they come out of this okay. We all know what's going on with RAM and RAM prices, the increases due to AI and AI infrastructure, which I have thoughts on that, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. But these companies have to do something. They have to make an adjustment somehow. Now, I think Nintendo is taking another approach, and I think Sony is taking one approach. I think Xbox got ahead of this really early. They must have seen something coming because they raised their prices really early on. They must have been reading the tea leaves. But I said all that to say, what I started out saying is, I do not expect companies to just eat price increases. I've never seen that happen. Maybe it has happened and I wasn't paying attention, but anytime a company is faced with increase in some kind of material they need, an increase in the price of some base material for whatever it is they're doing, they pass that on to the customer. Now, we can debate about whether that should be, whether they should just take the hit, they got enough profits. We can make all of those discussions. I always lead with this. If I ran a company, it is not my goal to get over on my customers. I want to provide my customers with something, and hopefully they appreciate what I provide and they meet me halfway by purchasing the things that I provide. Now, if I am hit with an unforeseen cost, I'm faced with two options. Now, when you have investors, this runs into a whole nother issue. Let's say I have my own company. Here's what I'm faced with. I either take this hit not knowing if I'm going to have quarters that are going to make up for that hit, or I pass this increase in cost or in production onto the customer. And often that's what companies do. I know some people see that as purely evil. I'm not convinced that that's purely evil. It is a business decision. It's what companies do. Again, we can argue about the morality of that, but if you have a company and you're not trying to make money, well, you're not gonna have a company at some point. That's just the way it is. So I understand because of the current RAM prices, why Sony is doing what they're doing and raising prices. Now, we could also make the argument that they're just taking advantage of the situation and there's no need for them to actually raise prices. I don't know what their profit margin is on each PlayStation unit, so I didn't look into that, so I can't say. I'm just gonna assume that one of these two things are true. They can either deal with this and it wouldn't really be a big problem, or they have to figure out a way to recoup this cost. Let's say they have to figure out a way to recoup the cost. All right. What are they going to do? And they have investors, publicly traded company. At that point, what do? Do you tell your investors, well, we're just going to take this hit. Your stock value is going to drop. They have what do they call it? A fiduciary responsibility to their investors as a company. Now, them raising the price of their systems could make their stock price drop as well. It very well could do that. If people don't buy the system, well, then you have another problem. I'm not sure it's going to slow down, although there is arguments being made, and I think these arguments are legit, that gaming is becoming a rich person's hobby, not even middle class. It's getting crazy. It is getting really crazy. So let me get on with the article, and I'll explain why I think this could work in the long run to the benefit of gamers. According to the official statement released on PlayStation's blog, the price change is blamed on continued pressure in the global economic landscape. We know that price changes impact our community, and after careful evaluation, we found this was a necessary step to ensure we can continue delivering innovative, high-quality gaming experience to players worldwide. The updated recommended retail prices for PS5 consoles are effective starting April 2nd, 2026 as follows. For all other territories, please check with your local retailer or directPlaystation.com, direct.playstation.com, where it is available. So in the US, the PS5 is going to be $64.99. The PS5 digital is going to be $5.99, and the PS5 Pro is going to be $8.99. Now, I can't remember what the prices were exactly, but I do remember when the PlayStation 5 first came out and I saw the price, I was like, wow, whoa, man, these video game prices are crazy. Not that prices weren't crazy back in the 80s and 90s as well. Adjusted for inflation, video game console prices were they were up there. Maybe not as much as they are now, but my mom couldn't afford a video game system. I got the Sega Genesis very late into its run. I want to say a little bit past the midway point of its run, I got me a Sega Genesis and the price had dropped. Yeah, I don't want to say significantly, but it definitely dropped from its initial release. So in the UK, it's going to be £569.99 for the PS5. For the PS5 digital edition, £519.99. And the PS5 Pro, £789.99. I think that's how you say that. Pounds and pence. Okay, in the Greater European Union, 649.99 euro for the PS5. For the digital edition of the PS5, 599.99 euro, and for the PS5 Pro, I don't know why I'm slipping over my words, 899 euro and 99 cents. I think it's still cents in euros. I don't know. Anyway, so the prices, the euro and the US prices are very similar. And I want to say, I don't know what the currency exchange is right now, But I remember when I was in the UK, the pound was definitely destroying the dollar. So those prices are probably very similar, adjusted for, the currency exchange. And I don't know if the euro is ahead of the dollar right now. I know it was some years ago, but that may have changed. Anyway, I don't want to go into all of that. But okay, they raised the prices. Now, here's what Nintendo is doing, and I'm going to tell you what I think is going on and how both of these things might actually work to the benefit of gamers in the long run. I'm not saying right now. Nintendo will charge different prices for digital and physical games, starting with Yoshi. Now, I'm going to say this on the onset because I think the physical games are going to stay the same price they were. Now, when Nintendo came out with the price of their games, people were rightfully so not too happy because you're pushing $80 for some of these games. And I thought it was odd. I didn't think too much of it other than the fact that I was thinking, man, these prices are really, this is kind of steep for a game. Then the RAM thing happened. The RAM prices, shot up. There's a RAM shortage. And this is what I wondered. I wonder if Nintendo took the calculated risk knowing that they would have not not so great of a profit margin selling their Switch 2, but maybe they could recoup that slightly by elevating the prices of their games. So we'll charge more for the games, but keep the console at a somewhat decent price. I think this is the most expensive Nintendo system to date. I got my Switch 2 sitting right in front of me. I'm pretty sure it is. Needless to say, I wonder if that was their strategy. And I wonder if this is why and how Nintendo is holding out from raising the price, even though people have said price hikes are coming. Trust me, I'm getting to what I think this is leading to. Just bear with me. According to a post released by the gaming giant on March 25th, Nintendo will charge different prices for digital and physical games starting in May 2026. And the first game to get hit with this change is Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, which the game is still not cheap. This is not cheap. So the upcoming game, which will release on May 22nd, will be $59.99 on the eShop to download or $69.99 at retail locations. This will only be a change to first-party games. So first-party games that Nintendo pushes, this is going to be their change. Now, what third parties do? I would imagine that third-party developers are probably going to follow suit with what Nintendo is doing. They may not. I'm just saying that's a possibility. I think a very big possibility. But let's see. For those who like the convenience of downloading a game rather than collecting the physical copy, this can be a great thing. As you're saving $10, as most games were recommended at $69.99. No matter what format you purchase them in. However, this is a blow to those who prefer physical media because many Switch 2 games no longer have cartridges, just game key cards that allow the user to download the title but do not contain the full game data. I think most of us knew, especially in the digital age, that games were moving to this download model, even though I would say I think more and more people are, I would say, moving toward physical media. I see more people buying vinyls, like not even downloading. I'm not that they're not downloading albums or streaming, but they're buying more vinyls. People want physical items. I think that's a big deal. I think it's growing. And I think that might actually shift the way some of this works. We shall see. Who knows? According to the post, Nintendo games offer the same experience whether in package or digital format. And this change simply reflects the different costs associated with producing and distributing each format and offers players more choice in how they can buy and play Nintendo games. This will affect only new games that come out in May, and existing titles will not see a price change, even though Mario Kart World is already more expensive at $79.99, which is expensive. There's no doubt. $80 for a game it's nuts. This is definitely becoming a luxury hobby. Nintendo stated to IGN in response to their price inquiry saying the cost of physical games is not going up. This means that when Nintendo sells digital versions of Nintendo published games exclusive to Nintendo Switch 2 to consumers in the US, those prices will have an MSRP that is lower than their physical counterparts. Retail partners set their own prices of physical and digital games, and pricing for each title may vary. Essentially, they're saying that they're not raising the prices, but lowering the digital version prices to accommodate the lack of packaging, production, and distribution, which that only makes sense. I would think it'd be a little more or maybe a lot more than a $10 difference, but I don't know all of the costs that goes into this, so I'm not going to assume. I don't own a business, and I definitely don't own a video game console company, so I don't really know. Though the timing makes this decision frustrating, as gamers are sharing their disinterest in physical copies because they don't include a cartridge, while producing the packaging for physical media is definitely an extra cost. The Switch 2 games, only including a game key card, which just lets you download the game, it feels like a ripoff with being an extra $10. And I can see that the extra $10 in all of the packaging. I so I'm of several minds on this. So here's where I'm at, and here's my thoughts on these two things. Let me deal with Nintendo first. So I believe there are Nintendo games that are game key cards, but I can't remember. I know Metroid Prime 4 is an actual cartridge. The whole game is on the cartridge. Now, I don't know anything about game development. I am not a game developer at all. So I'm not going to proclaim that I understand the ins and outs of this, but I wonder if there is a way to optimize some of these bigger games to fit on a cartridge. I think the max size of a cartridge, what is it, like 64 gig or something like that? I can't remember what the limitation is. I might be wrong on that. It might be a lot more. I can't remember exactly, but I know it's not really huge. Maybe somebody develops an even bigger cartridge and maybe that generates another cost. I don't know. But here's where this and what's going on with PlayStation may in the long run work for gamers. People eventually are going to stop spending money on consoles. People might start, and I've seen other people say this, which I think is very possible to be true. People might start building PCs. These are multi-use items. You can use your computer to make money along with gaming. So people might do that just because it's more cost effective, it's more beneficial. But also what's going to happen is people are going to be very selective about the games they buy due to the costs. And in my humble opinion, what's going to happen is many of these studios are not going to have the capital coming in that they once did. And they will know, in order to really bring in capital, we have to make something incredible. It has to be great. It has to bring players back to the table. and thus you'll get better quality games. That is a possible outcome to all of these price hikes, because if people stop spending money, the only way you're going to make money in gaming is give the people something they want and build an actual buzz around a game. Is that a guarantee? It's not guaranteed to work that way. I don't, however, believe that the gaming industry is just going to go away. Things might change. Consoles might become a thing of the past. That's always possible. I think of all systems in this current generation, Nintendo could actually capitalize on this more than these other companies. Now, I don't know what Nintendo has going on. I know that they're holding out on raising the price of the Switch 2. It might be inevitable. That might happen. But if they can hold out, let's say if they can hold out for, let's say, another year and a half, and they never raise the price of the system, when you have people deciding, kids deciding what they want or telling their parents what they want, and a parent looks at the PS5, PS5 digital, PS5 Pro. I'm not even going to consider Xbox. Xbox, I don't think is a real big contender anymore. And then they look at the Switch 2 and they go, wait a minute. A lot of these games are on the Switch. Obviously, exclusives to the PlayStation are not going to be on a Switch. But when they look at some of these games, and the kids themselves might look and go, if I ask my mom or my dad for any one of these Sony units, man, that price is crazy. But if I ask them for a Switch, it's maintaining at this price. This is more doable. I think that will work out for gamers as well, or could work out for gamers. I don't know. That's why I said these stories could collectively actually turn out to be a positive thing for gamers. Not a guarantee, but I think it's a huge possibility.